This is the fundamentals of population genetics. So population is a group of individuals of the same species that are in the same geographical area and they're capable of interbreeding. And a gene pool is all of the genetic information in a population. The Hardy-Weinberg equation can help us calculate allele and genotype frequencies, and it assumes an ideal population with random mating, large size, and no evolutionary forces. Non-random mating doesn't have an effect on allele frequency, but all of the other factors do, and they also affect the genotype frequency, which is why we need to assume this ideal population. So in the equation, generally the dominant allele is P and the recessive allele is Q. P squared is the frequency of homozygous dominant, Q squared is the frequency of homozygous recessive, and 2pq is the frequency of heterozygous individuals. In this sample butterfly population, we have a count of all the different genotypes. We can use this to calculate the genotype frequency by taking the number of individuals of a genotype and dividing it by the total number of individuals. Here we can see big B is P squared, big B little b is 2pq, and little b is Q squared. We can use the genotype frequency to calculate the allele frequency, which is the number of a certain allele divided by the total alleles, and by using this we can calculate P and Q, and P plus Q should equal 1. And we can also use a different equation to calculate this, which just takes the number of alleles from the genotypes and the number of individuals. Fitness is an individual's genetic contribution to future generations. Genotypes with higher fitness produce healthier offspring, and genotypes with lower fitness produce unhealthier offspring. With a lethal allele, individuals with homozygous recessive genotype have a fitness of 0 because they don't produce any viable offspring. Over time, this recessive allele will decrease, but it's hard to completely eliminate because heterozygous individuals can still survive and reproduce. Here's some example calculations for fitness, where the first butterfly only produces 1 viable offspring out of 3, so its fitness is 0.33. And you can see this with the 2 others. My computer isn't clicking. Okay, there are 3 types of selection. Directional selection, where a population favors one extreme phenotype. Stabilizing selection, where it favors the mean phenotype. And disruptive, where it favors 2 extremes of a phenotype. And this can be because of different environmental factors and natural selection. Gene flow is the movement of genes between populations, and genetic drift is a random change in gene frequency. This could be a bottleneck, which is a spontaneous decrease in a population, usually because of environmental factors, or a founder effect, where a couple individuals of a population start a new population in a different area. Allopatric speciation is caused by geographic barriers, where 2 parts of the population are separated and they are isolated and they produce 2 different species. Sympatric speciation is inside of a population, inside of the same geographical area, and an example of this is behavioral isolation, where certain individuals will only mate with very specific individuals and they won't mate with everyone. And we can look at a species' evolutionary history by looking at their genes and shared genetic traits that they have. So on the right, you can see that where the junction is, where 2 species split, this is where they have a common ancestor. Here are my sources.